New books coming out in May. No messing about with that opening. On May 1st, we have Seeds of War. This is the start to a self-published, gritty, epic fantasy series with smoke magic, alien creatures, and ancient secrets. Let's have a look at that synopsis. He ran like the monster he was, and the smoke followed. Gimlor is a single mother and war veteran turned crime boss, set on protecting her family and her town. Oberesis is a petty thief pretending to be a god to protect a terrible secret. Rednow is the world's most feared mercenary, but his best days are behind him and there's one job left to do. In a world of dangerous monsters and devastating smoke magic, the seeds of war are being planted. Allies must be treasured and enemies defeated. I've seen some early reviews for this and they all seem to be very positive, and I can't think of another example of there being smoke magic in a fantasy book, so that is definitely something I'm very intrigued about.
Wow.
Seeds of War, book 1 to a new series. Check out. Next up we have the First Ancestor. This is the sequel to The Last Ranger. This is also a self-published series, and look at those covers by Felix Ortiz. Another epic fantasy for you. This is inspired heavily by Horizon Zero Dawn, I believe. So if you like the game, it might be worth checking out The Last Ranger. And as I always do, we're going to go over the synopsis for book 1, because then you'll know if you want to read book 2 or not. So, synopsis for The Last Ranger. Betrayed, hunted, left for dead, but not even death itself can keep the Last Ranger from vengeance. Lane Firebrand is no stranger to a fight. A brash ranger of the Titan Wild, she takes up her bow to ward against the colossal spirit creatures known as Titans. Ever a threat to the colonies she has sworn to protect. But no amount of skill can guard against treachery. When tragedy strikes the Ranger's Lodge, Lane vows to avenge the fallen. But if she is to succeed, she must embrace a power within her she has long denied. This is another one that seems to get really good reviews, and it's definitely a series I want to check out. I really like this premise of there being giant titans that this ranger has to go take out, and it seems like there's a bit of a revenge story in there. And I know swords are really popular, but bows are just the best weapon. I'm not even taking arguments on it, it's just fact at this point. Who doesn't love a bow? Coming on May 2nd, we have The Sword Defied. I mentioned this book in my anticipated 2023 reads video that I did at the start of the year. It's got a talking sword. Need I say more? That's what really sold me on this book. There is meant to be a lot of humour with this book as well. Let's read some of the synopsis. Many years ago, Sir Aelfric and his 9 companions saved the world, seizing the Dark Lord's cursed weapons, along with his dread city of Nakrad. That was the easy part. Now, when Aelfric, keeper of the cursed sword Spellbreaker, learns of a new and terrifying threat, he seeks out the 9 heroes once again. But they are wandering adventurers no longer. Yesterday's eager heroes are today's weary leaders, and some have turned to the darkness, becoming monsters themselves. If there's one thing Aelfric knows, it's slaying monsters, even if they used to be his friends. I am a sucker for the washed up hero trope that's then going back and adventuring again. Feels very Kings of the Wild, and I like this idea of his old friends, maybe some of them turning to the dark side. I want to read it. And I can. May 2nd. Also coming on May 2nd, we have Dragonfall. Long ago, humans betrayed dragons, stealing their magic and banishing them to a dying world. Centuries later, their descendants worship dragons as gods. But the gods remember, and they do not forgive. It is a little known secret. Dragons are cool, and I like them. And this also seems something right up my street. I will add that one of the tags is romance, so I don't know how big a part the romance plays. It's not necessarily my thing to have lots of romance in fantasy books, but if that's your thing. However, I might check out eventually because dragons. Coming out on May 16th, we have the Malevolent 7. We're just gonna go with that one. It's there. You know what it is. Picture a wizard. Go on, close your eyes. There he is, see? Skinny old guy with long straggly beard. No doubt he's wearing iridescent silk robes that couldn't protect his frail body from a light breeze. The has a must too, right? Big floppy thing covered in esoteric symbols that would instantly show every other mage where this one gets his magic. Wouldn't want a simple steel helmet or something that might, protect the part of him that is most needed for conjuring magical forces from being bashed in with a mace or pretty much any household object. Now open your eyes and let me show you what a real war mage looks like. But you're probably not gonna like it because we're violent, angry, dangerous, broken people who sell our skills to the highest bidder and be damned to any moral or ethical considerations. At least until such irritating concepts as friendship and the end of the world get in the way. I've seen this cover about, but I haven't seen much about the book itself, but now that I've read that synopsis, it sounds excellent. I love that sort of sarcastic tone. Sounds like it could be quite a funny book, and it's also tagged as dark fantasy, so I do like when people balance that sort of humor more lighthearted with these darker themes. Plus wizards. Who doesn't love wizards? However, I'm going to be disappointed if I read it and they don't have pointy wizard hats. They need to have pointy wizard hats. It's the rules. Coming out on May 11th, we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I was lucky enough to get an ARC copy and I have read a little bit of it so far and I'm really enjoying it. It did have a little bit of a slow start, but once you get into it, it's a really creative book. I've not read anything like it. I'll read the synopsis because that will do a better job of explaining it. A boy has lived his whole life trapped within a vast library, older than empires and larger than cities. A girl has spent hers in a tiny settlement out on the dust where nightmares stalk and no one goes. The world has never once noticed them. That's about to change. Their stories spiral around each other across worlds and time. This is a tale of truth and lies and hearts, and the blurring of one into another. A journey on which knowledge erodes certainty, and on which, though the pen may be mightier than the sword, blood will be spilled, and cities burned. Like I said, this is a really creative book. I have not read anything like it. And who doesn't love a magic library? Next up, we have The Lost War. The interesting thing about The Lost War is it was originally self-published and it won the SBFBO competition 2 years ago, before it was then picked up by Orbit and republished traditionally. That does mean there is plenty of reviews out there, so if you're interested, I will go over the synopsis in a minute. If you're interested, you can look into more reviews, and there should be plenty, because it was originally published in 2019. The war is over, but something is rotten in the state of Edene. With a ragged peace in place, demons burn farmlands, violent ravers roam the wilds, and plague has spread beyond the Black Meadows. The country is on its knees. In a society that fears and shuns him, Aranok is the first magically skilled Druid to be named King's Envoy. Now charged with restoring an exiled foreign queen to her throne, he leads a group of strangers across a ravaged country. But at every step, a new mystery complicates their mission. As bodies drop around them, new threats emerge and lies are revealed. Can Aranok bring his companions together and uncover the conspiracy that threatens the kingdom? This just sounds like some classic epic fantasy fun, and we're always here for that. I don't think I said. Coming May 18th. Coming on May 23rd, we have The Battle Drum. This is the sequel to The Final Strife. Again, go over synopsis for book 1. In the first book of a visionary fantasy trilogy with roots in mythology of Africa and Arabia, 3 women band together against a cruel empire that divides people by blood. Red is the blood of the elite, of magic, of control. Blue is the blood of the poor, of workers, of the resistance. Clear is the blood of the slaves, of the crushed, of the invisible. As the Empire begins a set of trials of combat and skill designed to find its new leader, the stage is set for blood to flow, power to shift, and cities to burn. I love seeing books based on mythology that we don't often get influences from in modern day fantasy, so having it from African mythology and Arabian mythology, I'm all for that. I absolutely adored Rage of Dragons, which was based off African mythology. So book 1 is really highly rated with a score of 4.28 on Goodreads to almost 3,000 ratings. Next up on May 30th, we have Witch King by Martha Wells. Martha Wells is the author of the Murderbot Diaries, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I may have mentioned it once or twice. After being murdered, his consciousness dormant and unaware of the passing of time. While confined in an elaborate water trap, Kai wakes to find a lesser mage attempting to harness Kai's magic to his own advantage. That was never going to go well. But why was Kai imprisoned in the first place? What has changed in the world since his assassination? And why does the Rising World Coalition appear to be growing in influence? Kai will need to pull his allies close and draw on all his pain magic if he is to answer even the least of these questions. He's not going to like the answers. For some reason, this makes me think of Zelda Breath of the Wild, this whole hero waking up and realizing the world is kind of not in a great place. But I trust Martha Wells, I absolutely adore the Murderbot Diaries, so I'm all for checking out Witch King. And that's some books that are coming out in the month of May. Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know what you're going to be reading in the month of May. Are you going to pick up any of these? If not, what are you going to be reading? And thank you very much for watching. Outro. And if you heard any background noise, it was Meg who decided to sit and snore throughout the whole video.